Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut, is the best game I've played on PS5 so far. I would go so far to say that if you want the best possible PS5 experience, then play Ghost of Tsushima. It's the best game in order to take advantage of all that the PS5 really has to offer.
Talk about Spider-Man.
I know. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I really only talk about Spider-Man here. It's my favorite game of all time. But after playing Ghost of Tsushima on the PS5, I just had to come on here and talk to you guys about it. I would go so far to say that, close your ears, Spider-Man fans. Ghost of Tsushima is a better PS5 experience than the remastered version of Spider-Man. So what's the deal with this game? Why is it deserving of all of this praise that I'm laying on it right now? Well, stay tuned to find out. So let's start with what's arguably the most important part of any single player game, and that's the story. I'm a sucker for narrative driven games, and Ghost of Tsushima's narrative is probably the main reason I fell in love with this game in the first place. The story kicks off as the Mongolian army is invading the small island of Tsushima. Our main character Jin is a samurai who is set out to defend Tsushima alongside with his uncle, who is the leader of all the samurai and the lord of the island. The samurai are quickly overwhelmed at the beginning of the game, and they're pretty much all presumed to be dead, including our main protagonist, Jin. His uncle is taken captive by the Mongolian army. The army keeps his uncle as collateral in hopes that the island will surrender to them. All of the samurai are presumed to be dead, but little do they know that our protagonist, Jin Sakai, is alive. And this leads us to one of the most epic revenge stories. As a side note, I am a sucker for revenge tales, so maybe I'm a little bit biased on this. It's probably the main reason I was hooked by this game so quickly in the first place. Okay, back to the story. Jin then goes off on his mission for revenge and to rescue his uncle, thus earning his title of the Ghost of Tsushima. The ghost almost becomes like this mythological figure on the island. There are whispers among all of the natives talking about that there's this samurai who is going around and kind of sparking hope to the island, the ones that remain there, and he quickly earns a reputation across the island. Now, that's all I'm really willing to say about the story without really spoiling the game, but I will say that the game does end in such an emotional way, to the point where once the game ended, I felt really heartbroken. That feeling lingered with me for days after playing, and I have to believe that that's what the writer's intention was when creating this story. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but trust me when I say that this game's story is ridiculously satisfying in the revenge aspect and in the emotional aspect. The story has earned so much respect that a movie for it has already been greenlit, and the director of the John Wick movies is going to be making it. Oh my god, I cannot wait for that. So let's move on to what really sets this game apart from all of the other PS5 games out there on the market. The PS5 is a beast of a console, and there are a ton of beautiful looking games that run really well. This game has all of the bells and whistles you would expect for a PS5 game. You have the 60 frames per second, haptic feedback in the controller, pretty much no load times, only it does all of these things better than any of the other games I've played on the PS5. For starters, I have to lay down some praise for the fidelity of this game. I mean, this game is beautiful. There would be so many times where I'd be off riding on my horse to get to my next quest, and I would just have to stop and marvel at the beauty of the sunset, or the landscapes that were just so breathtaking, or perhaps even the variety of skyboxes that are in this game. I mean, the use of lighting in this game is a masterpiece. So often I would get distracted by the scenery or just a change of weather randomly. I was blown away by the dynamic weather and lighting in this game. There'd be often times where I would start at one place in the map, and as I'm riding off to my next destination, the weather would change drastically. I'd maybe start off in a sunny section of the map, and as I continued to ride, I would notice the sky and the clouds getting a little bit darker until I eventually hit a thunderstorm. Things like this make the experience so immersive. I honestly probably would have finished this game a lot sooner had I not stopped so many times to take photos once I noticed the sunset. Which kind of brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, and it's the photo mode in this game. The photo mode in Ghost of Tsushima is one of the best photo modes I have ever used in a video game. The amount of options you have at your fingertips is a treat, especially for someone like me who really enjoys some virtual photography. There are times where I'm not really in the mood to necessarily play through a story or get competitive in a game, but I just want to kind of chill out and take some photos. The fact that you can render particles, leaves, and much more for your photo is just insane. You can adjust the wind or make the background live so that you can snap a shot at just the right moment, or perhaps you can simply just take some animated shots, which I've seen on the internet and they look beautiful. I mean, there is so much available for virtual photographers out there. I know that the virtual photography scene is really soaring, and I've seen a lot of people really take advantage of the photo mode in this game. I mean, it's just stunning what you're able to do. So let's move on to the best controller in gaming right now. Ghost of Tsushima really let me know what is possible for the DualSense controller. Don't get me wrong, a lot of PS5 games do some really good things with the DualSense controller, but nothing has come close to what Ghost of Tsushima did with the director's cut. The haptics have never felt better. The resistance you get from the triggers are amazing. And this one point might sound a little odd, but the feedback that you get when you're on your horse galloping on different terrain is crazy. I really noticed this while I was riding the horse along a long bridge, and the vibrations completely changed to a different feeling than I got when I was running through the grass. I mean, it's a small detail, but it's something that I really noticed and really got me immersed in the whole experience. I don't know why this one thing in particular got me so impressed, but it just really stood out to me. I will also say that this is one of the few games that actually utilizes the touchpad for something on a controller other than for bringing up a menu. In the game, there's actually a mechanic in place where the wind directs you where to go in order to kind of find your path to the next quest, and you can swipe on the touchpad to trigger that wind, and the controller actually does a really good job of using that haptic feedback to make it feel like the wind is kind of pulling you in that direction. The combat also feels very satisfying on this controller. Overall, I'm just super impressed what they were able to do with the DualSense controller in this game. It really shows off what potential games on the PS5 could really feel like. The combat in Ghost of Tsushima is also very addicting. One thing I really want to highlight about the combat is just the pacing. You can't just go running around swinging your sword at every enemy. It's not a button masher. You have to be methodical and calculated. Each enemy requires a different approach when attacking and defending. In this game, you actually have stances, and each enemy requires you to choose a different stance that is best suited for attacking and defending against that enemy. I hate to be cliche, but this game really did make me feel like I was a samurai. The combat can be really brutal and ruthless at times, and sometimes a little gory. But there is no more satisfying feeling than when you're able to knock out an entire group of enemies using the correct stances, perfect parries, and well-timed attacks. I never really got bored of the combat, and there was always a new challenge. Especially when you got into the DLC section of the game, there's even more enemy types, and it really was a challenge from start to finish. To summarize the whole point in this video, Ghost of Tsushima is just an excellent game, and if you haven't checked it out for yourself, I recommend doing it on the PS5. If you have played it on the PS4, I can guarantee it's well worth the upgrade to experience it on the PS5. I'm like 2 years late to the party on this game, and I know that all of the hype surrounding it is gone, and not that many people are out there are searching for Ghost of Tsushima videos, but I was just so passionate about playing this game and really talking about it and praising it because I think it deserves even more praise than it's gotten. I honestly cannot wait for a sequel. It may not be my favorite game of all time like Spider-Man, but it certainly is the best experience I've had on the PS5 so far. If you have played the game, let me know what you think of it. And if you enjoy PS5 related content or Marvel Spider-Man content, then consider hitting that subscribe button. If you want to show me some sort of support and let me know that you enjoyed this video, although it is a little different from my typical videos, you can do so by just hitting that thumbs up. It definitely would mean a lot to me. But that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.